I will be presenting a brief overview of the environmental policy of Mexico. First, as you can see, Mexico is privileged for its natural capital, and it's known all over the world for its cultural and biological diversity. Among the 17 countries considered as mega-diverse, Mexico is the fourth. With about 1.5% of the planet's surface, more than 10% of all known plant and animal species can be found in our country. For example, Mexico is the second country with the more mammal and reptile species. There is no other country on Earth with more pine and cacti species. And there is more. Our natural wealth includes being center of origin of many very important crops like corn, beans, tomato, and many more. Our forestry potential extends to 70% of the country, and there are close to 7,000 miles of highly productive coastal zones. Agricultural and cattle ranching expansion is one of the reasons why our country suffers on environmental aspects. Being an economy in expansion with almost 105 million people, Mexico faces the challenge of harmonizing environmental protection and social and economic development. As it is sadly happening all around the planet, our incredible natural wealth is being lost. In Mexico, the main environmental challenges we face are the expansion of agricultural and cattle raising land, as well as urban growth, which results in biodiversity loss. Ecosystem degradation is worsened by air, soil, and water pollution, by emissions coming from land use change, transport and industry, and an inefficient waste and water management. In the case of the environmental policy, Mexico's resolute commitment to sustainable development has been consistently affirmed by President Calderón. The environmental policy of Mexico recognizes the crucial role of biodiversity in poverty, eradication, and life quality, improvement by the conservation, protection, and sustainable use of natural resources. The immediate, straightforward attention to climate change mitigation, vulnerability reduction and adaptation strengthening, as well as the proper social and economic valuation of ecosystem goods and services are priorities for this administration. As stated in Potsdam, Germany some weeks ago, we recognize that proper linking of biodiversity conservation, climate change attention, economic development, and poverty eradication is necessary to be adequately address environmental global challenges. Furthermore, we recognize the importance of society's informed participation in achieving the proposed goals. Which are the priority environmental programs? Are these 4 or 5 the main important programs for us? Therefore, these administration efforts are directed mainly to those who live in extreme poverty conditions, who usually are those who live in zones with high biodiversity. With no doubt, the results will benefit all Mexicans as well as all people around the world. All these programs that you see, the ProArbol is our star reforestation and conservation program, the 5-to-1 program related to drinkable water and sanitation, the National Strategy for Climate Action, the Land Use Planning in Coastal Zones, and the National Conservation Strategy for Development. Allow me to elaborate on each one. Let me tell you that ProArbol is the most important program on environmental terms for President Calderón. Every time I meet President Calderón in Los Pinos, he's asking me all the time, where are my trees? I want to see the trees in the forest and in the jungle. So ProArbol is a program directed to improve the quality of life of communities who live in and from forests, aiming for sustainable forest management, creating new sources for employment, and increasing the competitiveness of the forest sector. Our goal is to retrieve the vast forestry potential of Mexico. This program operates through direct support for. One of the things that we have been doing in the last months is to visit more than 11,000 rural areas, villages, more than 11,000, to promote this program. And we are really happy to see all the indigenous people from the center, the south, the southeast, visiting our offices till midnight sometimes, waiting for the application form and to change their lives. They have been understanding the program. I want to say that regarding reforestation, Mexico has already committed to plant 250 million trees during this year. This is 1/4 of the United Nations Environmental Program global goal. And the President is really happy to present this advance. I will talk about water. This program aims to extending the coverage of water services, drinking water, sanitation, and wastewater treatment. In the next 6 years, 13 million Mexicans will have water service and we want to reach the 70% coverage of wastewater treatment by the end of the 6-year term. The multiplying effect of this strategy will reduce the existing gap in water service provision, with which Mexico will be in the way to achieve the Millennium Development Goal of reducing by half the proportion of people without sustainable access to safe drinking water. Climate change. The National Strategy for Climate Action takes into account the role of healthy ecosystems on people's well-being. The wide variety of services they provide include, for example, the regulation of the water cycle and carbon sinking. Therefore, maintaining their functional integrity is imperative to mitigate climate change, as well as to reduce vulnerability. Mexico is determined to face climate change by identifying mitigation opportunities, developing emission reduction projects, and make the most of carbon markets. We just created the Mexican Carbon Fund, which is a new office to support the Mexican projects which are competing in the international market in order to get more benefits. As a country highly vulnerable to climate change impacts, capacity building for national and local response is a priority. And I would like to mention specifically the last line. In the year 2009, the sulfur content in all gasoline in Mexico will be 30 parts per million. This is a great effort that we just get the understanding, the agreement, the publication, the official publication with the automotive industry, the Mexican Petroleum, and the Ministry of Energy. I think it's one of the biggest programs for Mexico. Referring to the coastal zones in Mexico, important economic activities as tourism, oil and natural gas extraction, maritime transportation and ports, industry and aquaculture coincide in coastal and marine zones with vast natural wealth. Facing the challenge of their sustainable development requires coordination among the federal and local governments, as well as consensus with different social sectors. The National Strategy for Sustainable Use of Coasts and Oceans is designed to deal with these requirements, and this is well an initiative of President Calderon. The integral management of coastal zones is addressed by the promotion of ecological land use planning, which is an angular stone on achieving sustainable development in these regions, like Los Cabos, Mazatlan, the Mayan Riviera, the Gulf of Mexico. The National Conservation Strategy for Development, we know that environmental degradation not only results in biodiversity loss, it aggravates poverty. The conservation strategy for development is aimed at dissolving this vicious circle by implementing sustainable economic activities and offering employment opportunities for communities living on protected areas. We are talking about 13 million people living in these kind of areas, while promoting capacity building for conservation activities. At the same time, the protected surface will be increased in 3 million hectares. It means close to 7.5 million acres, where representative ecosystems and biodiversity of Mexico will be protected for present and future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, in Mexico, as in many other countries, climate change and biological diversity loss are considered as the two most important global environmental challenges facing mankind, with far-reaching ecological, economical, social, and security implications. The experts have stated that future vulnerability to climate change depends not only on these phenomena, but also on development pathways, and that sustainable development can reduce it by enhancing adaptive capacity and increasing resilience. Sustainable development is the only pathway to attain just and competitive societies, which are essential for sustained economic development, and neither is possible without healthy environments. The information now available to the international community is clearly pointing to the fact that action cannot be delayed. Mexico is taking action. Thank you very much.